This is an interview on the 21st of March 2009 with Herbert James Thatcher, V270127, Private, 39th Battalion, C Company, 15 Platoon. Can I call you Herb?
Yeah.
Herb, you were born and raised in Hawthorn on the 3rd of November 1921. You were called up in October 1941. Can you tell us which unit you joined?
The Royal Melbourne Regiment.
And that was the 6th Battalion?
Yeah.
And you did some camps with them?
Yeah. With Mount Martha and Balcombe, and ended up at Shore. And from there I headed north because I'd been accepted for the 39th Battalion.
So you spent quite a bit of time with the 6th Battalion, and your brother was in the 39th, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Was that the main reason that you
That's
joined?
right, yeah. Because he called in at home at Riversdale Road, Hawthorn, Christmas Day, and they went on to Aquitania on Boxing Day from Sydney in 1941.
What was the training like at Mount Martha? And
Oh, just basic, you know. As I say, it was pretty hectic when my shirt caught on fire, putting out a grass fire down at Shore.
that would have been exciting.
Yeah.
Did you lose anything else apart from your shoes?
No. And the main thing was having to work out a report of how I lost my shirt. So I don't know what they expected me to do when it was on fire.
So were there a few blokes went with you from Shoreham to the 39th? Or just yourself?
I wouldn't be too many, because as I say, the 6th Battalion ended up over in West Australia. I think from there they went to Darwin. But I don't think there would have been many went with me from down there, volunteered for the 39th Battalion.
At that stage, you and your brother were on active service, and you had a very large family, so
Yeah.
You weren't getting paid very much at the time.
No, 3 shillings a day.
Why was that?
Because we made an allotment to my mother, who was a widow because my father died in 1938.
And you had a large family to support.
Yeah.
It would have been hard on your mother having two sons away.
And the most amazing thing about there was 9 in our family, and there's 1 day difference between the eldest and the youngest. My eldest brother, who is now deceased, was born on the 4th of November, 16 years before I was born.
So from there, you after you left Shoreham with the 6th Battalion, you headed up by train up to Toowoomba to join a reinforcement group at a staging camp.
For the 39th Battalion, yeah.
And you spent a fair bit of time up around the Toowoomba area.
Yeah. Oh yes, there was, as I say, there was 53 pubs in the town, 37 in the main street.
And you were also out at Saline, which was quite a large staging camp.
Yeah.
And you were waiting there for quite some time, and you weren't particularly happy?
Oh no. And as I say, that's when the incident was that I went AWL.
So how did you get the money to go AWL? Was that?
Well, a friend of mine wrote home to his wife to send her £5. So we so I had no money, and so when he got the £5, we made arrangements to try and get back to Melbourne, but we weren't very successful because we got picked up in Brisbane.
And what happened after that? You got picked up?
So we went to a Calvin Grove, which was like an army jail. We spent a few days there, and then we went back to Saline.
And you got a few days docked in, a few days
pay. 3 days pay, and after putting a sob story over the commanding officer, I was granted 21 days compassionate leave back to Melbourne.
So it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
So you got back to, after that, you got back to Salim.
Yeah.
And was there much training done at Salim?
Oh, fair amount, yeah. Because Charters Towers is like an old cowboy town. They had, when you went to the pubs, they had the swinging doors, and there was, I think, Saline was closer to Townsville actually than what Charters Towers were.
And what sort of weapons were you training with at that stage?
But I was a bread and gunner mostly all the time. As I say, with
And what did you think of the Bren gun?
oh, very, very good. It was very, very accurate, and more so than what the Tommy gun was, because the Tommy gun was would spray quite a bit, but the old Bren gun, she was pretty accurate.
Carrying a Bren gun with loaded magazines also, that's a heavy load.
Oh yeah. Oh, because you had the shoulder strap on, that eased the load a little bit.
You must have been pretty fit at that stage.
Oh, reasonably fit, I suppose.
So there would have been quite a few men trying to get to the 39th Battalion at that stage up in Queensland. Maybe 100, a couple of hundred?
Well, there may be then, but I don't think there was too many taken from the 6th Battalion down around when I was taken ashore, when I volunteered and they accepted me. So.
And how was the morale with the reinforcement troops before you left for New
Oh,
Zealand?
really well, yeah. Everybody seemed to get on pretty well together.
You were treated okay apart from your one journey to the jail with the MPs?
Yeah.
And then you travelled down to Townsville to catch the ship up to Port Moresby.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? You're finally on your way.
Oh, well, pretty well relieved, because it's something we'd been looking forward to. And we didn't realise exactly what was going on over the track. And
Wish you would have been concerned about your brother at that stage.
oh, the first thing when they came out, I asked around, like, I forget who it was, Spud Whelan and those blokes, that if he was all right, and they assured me that he was, which was a relief to me until I saw him.
Did you get any letters from your brother? Did you write to your brother at this stage or not?
Oh no, not so much. No.
So did you spend it? You went to Townsville in May 1942. Did you spend a bit of time looking around Townsville before you headed up?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, the first night we went into Townsville on a Friday night, I think it was, we couldn't get any accommodation, so we went around the bloke that owns a taxi and arranged to sleep in a taxi overnight. And as I said before, the next morning we thought we'd get the early train back, and it took us 9 hours to travel about 72 miles.
So you were sleeping in taxis?
Yeah, just for the one night, yeah.
So you caught the ship from Townsville and you headed up towards New Guinea. This is with the reinforcements for the 39th. Did you, were you in a convoy or just by yourself, basically?
Just by ourselves. Because because with the MacDewey too, apparently they lost a few blokes off of the 39th unloading that ship and got bombed.
So you may have had an aircraft sort of shadowing you to make sure there were no Japanese...
flying boat, yeah.
Because there would have been a lot of Japanese submarine activity in that area.
I think most amazing thing was that when the original 39, they thought they were going up there for a bit of a picnic. It didn't turn out much of a picnic because apparently the few reports was they took their golf clubs and everything like that, and they didn't have much time to use them.
So how was the trip up on the ship? Was it uneventful? And...
Oh yeah. It we didn't have any problem getting up there. Some of the original, like the brother, they were camped around Bootless Bay and a few places around Moresby before they went into action over Kokoda.
And when you arrived in Port Moresby, there was an air raid on.
Yeah.
Was that right? Tell us something about that.
Yeah. And all we had to do was to dive into a slit trench. And that's when I was, we had two officers who wanted to know we could go with whoever we wanted to. And anyway, I decided to go with Hoot Gibson, and Cherry Vaughan said, I thought you would have come with me, Thatcher. And I said, I saw who was in the slit trench first. And he said, I wasn't. I said, well, you wasn't far away. And with that, he said, oh, Thatcher, you're a bastard. So...
you might have showed him up a little bit.
Yeah.
So what was, I mean, as soon as you arrived there on your first day, you're in an air raid. How did you feel about because the raid was quite close to where you were, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Like we no sooner got off the ship and they came over.
Did you experience many more air raids while you were there?
No, not that many.
So you joined the 39th and you joined C Company.
Yeah.
15 platoon. So you knew a couple of sergeants there. Your main sergeant was Jack Carnell, wasn't it? What was Jack like?
All right. He was all right. And as I mentioned about the other, Jack Flanagan used to take the Anglican service of a Sunday, so he was a great bloke.
And you had your 21st birthday up there too. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, digging bloody holes.
And Koitaki.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Oh, I wasn't very wrapped in that.
But you were also camped up at Hombron Bluff. That's quite high up, overlooking
Moresby.
Yeah. What was that like up there? Good?
Oh, it wasn't bad up there. It was, except when we had to go down to carry the Bren gun 17 down to the 17-mile or 7-mile drone, and then we fired 17 shots, I think it was, and then we had to go back up again. But I hitchhiked a load on the back of a truck my brother was on, and for that I got 7 days pack drill.
So you were charged just for getting a lift back?
Yeah.
And can you explain about the 7 days pack drill? What does that mean?
Oh, well, it from an afternoon we used to have it, and was pretty vigorous of what they used to give you to do and all that, to make sure you didn't do anything wrong again.
And who was the sergeant that took you with that?
Jack Carnell.
You were having a few choice words about that with him?
Yeah.
But it would have made you even fitter.
Oh, possibly. I'm not too sure on that.
So did you, the reason why you went from Hombron Bluff down to the 7 Mile, was that just to fire on the range down there?
Yeah. Just a bit of an exercise. And because as you're walking through, now and then your Bren gun legs would get tied up with a bit of vine or something like that. So you had to struggle through that. So I thought the easy way out was to get a lift back on the truck.
Were there many Bren guns in the platoon? Were you the only one, or were there a couple of other Bren guys in?
I think there'd be about one in each company. Yeah.
Was there much training, much sort of jungle training done apart from that when you were at Hombron Bluff? Or did you go on many patrols?
No, not that many. They had an occasion there where they, this was before we went up to Gona, where they had a sports day. And I'd just been down to the dentist to have a tooth out, and excessive bleeding, I couldn't join in the sports, but our company won the sports carnival, and they were going to have gifts given by the welfare fund and all that, And anyway, they were going to have a bit of a party, and then we got word that we were going to go up to Gona. So the salvos were around in 5 minutes and picked up all the goodies that we had to leave behind.
Were you getting a beer ration, speaking of parties, at that stage? Or?
I think it was about 1 bottle a week or something like that. I used to give it to the brother because he was a batman, and he was pretty matey with the butchers, and they put it under the frozen meat to try and keep it cold before we drank it.
Your brother had come out of the battles along the track with a lot of the other 39th guys who were also recuperating and getting fit to go to the Northern Beaches campaign. Did they talk much about what happened up at Kokoda? Or
No, not that much. As I said, that you heard if some so-and-so got killed or something like that, and unfortunately you just had to take it more or less in your stride, because you weren't aware what was going to happen to you or somebody else.
And what was in the 15th platoon, what was your section of guys like? Did they become pretty good mates?
Yeah, very good, yeah.
Good soldiers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then how did you feel about when you were about to fly up to Popondetta to go into action? Was it a feeling of excitement, or?
You don't get too excited.
And that was in about November 1942
Yeah.
that you flew up to Popondetta.
Yeah. It'd probably be a bit later, I think.
And you stayed around Popondetta for a while? Sort of guarding the airfield, or?
No, I don't think so. I think that more or less we were flown from Popondetta to Popondetta, and then we moved on towards Gona.
Did you march up to Gona, or did you get a truck up there?
No, we had to march up to Gona.
That's a fair way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that time of the year, it's in the wet season, so it's very warm.
Mm.
But you would have been fairly fit and at least acclimatised to the sort of climate by then. So you arrived at Gona, and you nearly got killed by the RAAF at one stage. What happened there?
Yeah, well, apparently they strafed where we were, and there was 7 chaps at the RAP, which is a regimental aid post, got wounded that particular day. And because they were firing 50mm shots.
And the fighting at Gona was well underway during this time?
Oh yeah, well it just started as I moved in, as we all moved in, and wasn't so long after that I looked down and there was blood squirting out from my boot, and once they took my boot off I couldn't put it on the ground.
So this was, you were in a formed attack?
Yeah.
With your platoon?
Yeah.
And you were going forward?
Forward, yeah.
And this is with your Bren gun?
Yeah.
So maybe, was it just an entrenched a Japanese position, or maybe a sniper?
I think he might have been up in a tree, unbeknownst to us, because apparently they used to try and specialise on getting rid of the Bren gunners.
So obviously someone would have taken over your weapon and all your magazines?
Yeah, I think there was, the sergeant was, I think we called him Jenna Moore, and he said, "I'll bring it up here," and I said, "Unfortunately I can't." I said, "Because I've been wounded through the foot," so he took control of it from there on. So.
What happened to the platoon after that? So you were then left and they kept going?
Yeah, they kept going. As I say, that with the casualties they were getting, they had to drop the carriers of the stretchers from 8 down to 6.
So then you were patched up at Gona?
Temporary. They put a bit of dressing on, and as I say, they got me out as quick as they possibly could.
And you weren't in much pain at that stage?
Oh, only as I said that once I took my boot off, I couldn't put any weight on my foot, and so that's the reason that they got me out and on the stretcher.
And this was your first action. Was it only the first few minutes, or?
In the very, very first few minutes, yeah.
Did you catch up with any other guys in the platoon? Were many others wounded that day?
There was you got quite a few casualties. As I say, that was the reason they dropped the stretcher bearers from 8 down to 6, because the casualties are coming pretty fast and thick.
And that was, you were wounded on the 8th of December 1942.
Yeah.
So then, after you were patched up at Gona, you got carried by native carriers all the way back to Popondetta.
Popondetta, yeah.
That's a fair way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think now I've found out it's about 27 k's, which is a fair hike through the mud and slush that they had to go through because they couldn't go through the trees or anything like that.
So these were 6 natives carrying yourself, and they were going through all sorts of terrain, mud.
Yeah, mud up to their knees at times. What
do you think of the natives?
I can't say enough for them. I'd never had a bit of trouble getting out without them. So
that was a long way to carry you, Herb.
Yeah.
And they didn't complain, or?
No. Well, as I say, the only thing that the 4 carrying the stretcher were made sure that the other 2 didn't get too far away.
Oh, so there were 4 on the stretcher and 2 sort of reserves, and they just rotated around?
Yeah.
Okay. And you'd stop for a spell every now and then?
But I think we may have stopped at an RAP station probably one night. I vaguely remember that there might have been an RAP, regimental aid post, that we stayed overnight one night. So.
And what was the doctors like at the RAPs? Were they pretty good?
Yeah, because there was a lot of troops like were in the medical aid that used to try and look after the wounded as much as possible until they got to some help that as far as doctors are concerned.
Because one of the biggest risks was infection.
Yeah, well, that's right, yeah.
And it was good that your wound never got infected?
No. And when I ended up, as I said, we were in Tamworth, and they used to do a bit of dressing on it, and the sister just had an ordinary razor blade to try and cut the dressing around so they'd put a new dressing on. And while we were in there, I'd heard a lot about after chaps coming out of an operation of letting go. Well, one bloke come out of the operation, and did he pay it out on the sister that was looking after him? He views her right and left. And
back at Gona, before you went into action at Gona, there were a lot of units at Gona fighting. Did you come in contact with any other battalions at the time?
No, I didn't know. As I say, it happened rather quickly, and then again, as I mentioned before, that the companies were set around different areas. Actually, before we went into Gona, you didn't have A company was somewhere positioned and B company was somewhere else, and C company, and so on. So the actual contacts you had were mainly in your own company.
Were you very far from the beach when you were wounded? You're fairly close to the beach, or were you way back from the beach?
It wasn't that far back, because when we went in.
But the Japanese are very well entrenched at that stage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had underground positions, as I said, which were more or less waterproof.
And you were out in the open in the rain? And
yeah, I think we had half a blanket or something and a ground sheet.
Were the mosquitoes bad down there at that stage too?
Oh, I don't think they were that bad, no.
Because a lot of A lot of the soldiers suffered badly from malaria.
Oh yeah.
Were you sort of lucky in that respect?
Like, I never got anything. I know that when they come back on leave, that they used to try and smoke Ataprin in their cigarettes to see if they'd get another dose of malaria. So it would mean that they could probably have a few more days at home. But I don't think it worked too good.
So then you went back to Port Moresby, and you probably spent a short time back there in a hospital, then onto a hospital ship back to Brisbane, which was the Sanananda, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the Sanananda.
Can you remember much about the trip back on the hospital ship?
No, the only thing I can remember is that in those days, though, getting ammunition up to New Guinea, they were using all sorts of transport, like yachts and all that to try and we come across where a yacht was in a bit of trouble and some ship was towing it, and I managed to look out through the porthole, and apparently the ship that was doing the towing got up in the air a bit, and the yacht got underneath the ship and just about cut the front of the yacht off the front of it.
And that yacht was obviously carrying supplies up to...
Yeah.
The hospital ship would have been obviously full of wounded.
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. So I was in a bed and I couldn't very well jump around and go and have a look. But
were you able to walk with crutches, or were you in a wheelchair at that stage?
Not for the time being, but when I got back to Tamworth, I managed to get a pair of crutches and managed to get around the by with a bit of assistance with them.
There would have been a lot of badly wounded soldiers as part of that.
Yeah, well, because I remember one day at the tour, and there was a bloke in Tamworth, and he had a broken neck, and it used to be he was in plaster all down his back, and it'd be amazing to watch him trying to bend over to see whether he'd thrown heads or tails.
Did you do any good at tour?
Oh, now and then you had a bit of success.
But you wouldn't have had much money because
no.
Most of your pay was going to your mother, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So
a couple of occasions I've probably been paid fortnight's pay and went down to the tour and did the lot. So
because you're only getting 3 bob a day at that stage.
Yeah, but in those days everybody relied on somebody else, you know. If so-and-so had so much and we wanted to go and have a play or something like that, there was always somebody to share it with.
So when you arrived back in Brisbane from the hospital ship, you caught obviously a train down to Sydney to a Concord hospital.
Sydney at Concord.
Yeah. Did they change your dressings there, or did any doctors look at you?
And then they, as I say, that's when we went back up to Tamworth.
So it was a Concord a big army hospital at that stage?
It was. Yeah.
And what was at Tamworth? Was that a hospital or
recuperation place? And I remember one day we went out to a bloke by the name of he was a big person in Tamworth. He had a lovely home and took us out there for a bit of an afternoon tea.
Were you on, at that stage, were you on a walking stick or crutches?
Crutches.
Crutches, and the foot was starting to heal a bit better?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have to have an operation or
No, it's only that they had to put it in plaster till the fracture healed up.
And then you spent a bit of time at Tamworth recuperating?
You
spent a bit of time at Tamworth recuperating from...
Yeah.
And then
we ended up going back down to Heidelberg.
The Heidelberg Repatriation Hospital in Melbourne. And you spent a fair bit of time there? Did you get a visit from your family? They would have been happy to see you.
Yeah, well, I think my mother was waiting, like they knew that when the hospital train was coming in, and she was waiting with one of my sister-in-laws to see me come off the train.
At the station?
Yeah.
Was that at Flinders Street Station or Spencer Street?
Over at Heidelberg.
Heidelberg,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah. Your mother would have been very pleased. And
Oh, yeah, she was, yeah.
She would have been in tears, would she?
Because I never used to smoke up in New Guinea. The comfort fund packets I used to always give them to my brother George until I was coming back on the hospital train, and they were throwing them right and left, so that's when I started smoking. So
did your mother get a surprise when she saw you smoking?
Yeah.
So did you spend a fair bit of time at Heidelberg?
Not too sure on that. There was a few, and how I come to get into the 1st Australian Base Ordnance Depot, I spoke to one of the nursing orderlies at Heidelberg, and I said to him just casually, do you know anybody that would be looking for B-class clerks? Because I'd been a clerk all my life. And he said, oh, try the Australian. There was a kit store at Kew. And I said, oh, that'd be handy because of living all. You know, I got in touch with the commanding officer there, and he didn't have any vacancies, but he put me on to the Australian Base Ordnance Depot and at 141 Queen Street.
That would have been all right, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So what was your job there?
I was in the mailing section, and because it meant that I had a full-time duty pass, so that if I was going to the post office down at Burke Street and so the provost picked me up, I had this pass, so that I was eligible to go around and do. And then I used to pick up mail from different places at Queen Bridge Street and then down to St Kilda and all that. And I told them that I found it hard to get back in time for evening meals. So I used to leave the camp at Broadmeadows about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd go around to the post office at the bottom of Burke Street and Spencer Street, and then down to the post office down at St Kilda, and so and then I'd wend my way home.
Were you in a truck or?
Oh, somebody would drive me. I had a driver there, but a couple of times I was held up by officers waiting to get a lift into town, and I complained about that, and so they turned around and said that I could leave about half an hour earlier to make sure that I did all the deliveries I had to.
With this pass you had, were the provost pretty active in sort of checking the credentials?
Around Melbourne at that particular time, they would be. They could pull you up and ask you if you had a leave pass, or so and so and so and so. So.
And because you were a wounded soldier from New Guinea, I mean, you would have at least earned some respect from some of the guys who hadn't been there.
In that photograph where we used to have a roll call on top of the building at 141 Queen Street, and I had a puggaree on. And anyway, we're doing a roll call in there, and an officer come along and he said, where's your anklets web, Private? And I said, I got shot through the foot of New Guinea and I can't wear boots. And what are you wearing the puggaree? Because the puggaree was only entitled to AIF members. And I said, well, I've served in New Guinea overseas, and anyway, I thought after that I'd better go on sick parade and see if I could get permission to wear my own shoes. So I went up to 339 Sponson Street and to go on sick parade, and I was given permission by the medical officer up there to wear my own shoes. and I'm still getting shoes now through the Veteran Affairs.
And how's your leg? Is it? Did it give you any trouble after the war?
No.
So you spent the rest of the war at Coin Street, or did you move around?
No, then we eventually got shifted all the way out to Broadmeadows. That was a long way away.
Broadmeadows would have been out in the sticks.
An army camp, and it was amazing that in those days, if you're A1, where you had to carry a rifle and all that, but B class people didn't have to. So then of a night time when we were going home, there'd be a mad rush because local blokes working out there would be going back to Melbourne, so there'd be a mad rush to see if we can get a lift at the army gate back into Melbourne. And it was generally the B-class blokes that led the way.
Did you would have heard at some stage that the 39th was disbanded in 1943 up at Wandekla. What did you feel? How did you feel about that?
Oh, it was a very disappointment. Particularly after what they'd gone through, and no apparent reason for it anyway.
And your brother would have been disappointed too, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So Herb, you ended up at Broadmeadows until the end of the war.
Yeah.
Because you were wounded, was there some? There were wound stripes that you could wear in uniform. Can you tell us something about those?
Yeah, and then when I got taken into the 1st Australian Base Ordnance Depot, I got an increase in my pay because I was made a Group 3 clerk, and that meant I was getting 4 bob a day.
And you were, as I said, you were eligible to wear a wound stripe because you were wounded in on active service overseas. So did you wear that on your sleeve?
Yeah.
Was it just a small white stripe on your sleeve?
Yeah. I'm not too sure of the colour now, but it was just on your sleeve to indicate that you had been wounded.
Did you see many other people with that kind of stripe?
No.
There wouldn't be many in Melbourne at that stage, would there?
No.
So did you enjoy life at Broadmeadows apart from probably catching the train out there?
Yeah.
Where were you living at that stage? Were you in a sort of barracks, or were you living?
No, still in Hawthorn.
Living with your mum?
Yeah.
Well, she would have been happy.
She died in 1943, so I was living with her sister, my eldest sister, at that time.
And were there any other siblings living in the house with you then, or?
Well, brother George would be there then, and probably my brother down at Inverloch, and that was in Hawthorn at the time.
And you were travelling out to Broadmeadows each day. That would have been a fair trip on the train.
Oh yeah, and I'll never forget that they used to charge us sometimes, and I think it cost me about a penny to get a train ticket. And anyway, I caught the train this particular morning and didn't get a ticket, and I had inspectors from Auburn Station to Spencer Street, and I had to make a penny, and then from Spencer Street to Broadmeadows I got picked up again because I never had another ticket, so I think it cost me tuppence that particular day for not having a ticket.
Even though you're a soldier?
Yeah.
Well, you would have walking from, was it a fair walk from Broadmeadows Station to the camp?
Oh no, it was might have been half a mile or something like that.
But there wouldn't have been any houses or anything out there?
No. And at the night time, if I went out and all that, they used to have all-night trams. And when I was living out at Hawthorn, I'd get them to slow down at one particular street, and I'd hop off, and then I'd just walk down Munro Street, and I'd come in the back gate of where I used to live.
And eventually you had earned enough points to be discharged in 1946.
Yeah.
So the war had probably been over for quite some time.
Oh, well, yeah, the peace treaty had been signed, and like the bombs at Hirohita, Hiroshima.
And so you probably you're probably in the army for another year before you got discharged.
Yeah, and then after I got discharged, I think I had a week's holiday and I went back to work for the brick companies again.
Where were they based?
I was at one particular time, it was room 1 on the first floor at 422 Collins Street, Temple Court. And
so you were discharged on the 27th of May 1946. So basically you were in the army for a year after the war ended.
Yeah, well, was
that the case for a lot of men?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
How did you feel about staying in the army? You weren't too fussed?
Oh, well, you couldn't do much about it because, as they worked on the point system, till no number of points came available, that you'd automatically be discharged.
Were you keen to get back into civilian life, or did you?
Oh, yes. As I say, I had 1 week off and then I went back to work. Because in the when I started off with the brick companies, we had no girls in the office. I used to be the typist and the telephonist, and no females worked in the office until such time as that during the war they had to turn around and get females to start working in offices in those days.
So how would you describe your time in the army? Was it an enjoyable time, an experience?
Oh, well, I suppose we can say it was enjoyable because I never suffered that much anyway, but it wouldn't do them any harm to have a bit of national training at the moment, Like I heard something on the wireless this morning with some kid, 16-year-old, driving a car. And
you were lucky you and your brother basically got out nearly unscathed, except for yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of families weren't so lucky.
No.
Well, Herb, on behalf of the 39th Battalion Association Historical Subcommittee, I'd like to thank you for your time for this interview, and we enjoyed the interview immensely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.